Hey everyone! What a beautiful day for a winter walk. Look at this frozen waterfall, so majestic. The snow crunches under my feet. I love it. The air is so fresh and crisp.
Guess what this is? Tibetan yak butter tea. Those of you who haven't tried it before may not like it at all. It's buttery and salty, but it's very good for warming you up when it's cold, like now. And this is a Tibetan snack eaten during Losar.
Why Tawang? Short answer is the birthplace of the controversial and notorious 6th Dalai Lama, Tsangyang Gyatso. Born in Tawang in 1683, Tsangyang Gyatso was identified as the reincarnation of the highly respected 5th Dalai Lama. Without leaving his hometown, the 15-year-old correctly identified items that belonged to the 5th Dalai Lama. When it was time for him to be enthroned as the highest spiritual leader in the land, however, he refused to take his monastic vows. To add insult to injury, Tsangyang Gyatso turned out to be an alcoholic and a womanizer, desecrating the sacred Potala palace he built in his previous life. His behavior sparked much debate. Was he an imposter? Was he already an enlightened being trying to teach lay people in an original way? Tsangyang Gyatso wrote many love poems. Centuries after his death, apologists have been struggling to interpret his love poems as Buddhist teachings. Regardless of whether they made any sense, Tsangyang Gyatso remains one of the most loved and remembered Dalai Lamas in the history of the institution. Tawang, his birthplace, Monpa, his tribe. We were born on the same day, 261 years apart. I sense a certain connection. Hence, Tawang, perched at 3,000 meters above sea level and practically a stone's throw from Tibet, became a must-see for me. There is also very little trip documentation on Tawang from a foreigner's point of view. The discovery and enthronement of the 6th Dalai Lama was as controversial as his lifestyle. To explain that, we must go back to his previous incarnation. The 5th Dalai Lama, Lobsang Gyatso, 1617 to 1682, also known as the Great Fifth, was not just a holy man, but a shrewd politician. At a time when Mongol princes had significant influence on the governing of Tibet, he communicated directly with the Manchu emperor in Peking and identified himself as the secular and spiritual leader of Tibet. Making Lhasa the capital and building the Potala as a symbol of centralized control, he also strengthened the belief that the Dalai Lama is an incarnation of Chenrezig, the Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara. With this power, Lobsang Gyatso turned Tibet into a vibrant and powerful theocracy, but towards the end of his life, he saw nothing but chaos and power struggle after his death. He ordered the region to keep his death a secret until his reincarnation was ready to take over. The regent, Tsangyang Gyatso, announced that the Dalai Lama was going into an indefinite retreat and dutifully delivered food to his meditation chamber every day. During festivals, he got a young monk to disguise himself as Lobsang Gyatso. This aroused some suspicion, but nobody blew his cover. Meanwhile, the regent assumed the duties of the deceased Dalai Lama with great gusto. In fact, he was so dedicated in his job that he disguised himself and went incognito into the populace to update himself on the talk of the town. So down to earth was Tsangyang Gyatso that he gave up his monastic vows and had scores of lovers. Then the oracles came up with a vision. The Dalai Lama's reincarnation would be found in southern Tibet. A boy was reported to have miraculously survived severe illness. The local clergy took the boy into custody and kept him in a shanty hut in inhospitable Sona, not far from his birthplace in Urgaling, Tawang. The boy and his mother suffered through brutal winters, ill-treated by local leaders. Tsangyang Gyatso's search party only managed to locate them in 1686. By then, the boy was 3 years old. Though his living conditions improved, Tsangyang Gyatso had given strict instructions that no one, not even his parents, could know that the boy was in fact the 6th Dalai Lama, until 1696, when the region finally made the announcement that the 5th died in 1682 and the 6th had already been found but was hidden from view all these years. Atrocious. But the atrocities would fly back in the face of Tsangyang Gyatso. The boy they found and enthroned in Lhasa turned out to be totally uninterested in studying Buddhist scriptures. Instead, he spent all his time on archery and literary pursuits. He would not listen to even the Panchen Lama or his parents. He threatened to commit suicide if they restricted his freedom. Did they get the wrong person? The 6th Dalai Lama turned out to be a guzzling party animal and womanizer. So promiscuous was he that he even bedded Tsangyang Gyatso's daughter. Interestingly, Tsangyang Gyatso is also one of the most fondly remembered Dalai Lamas. Some of his apologists have even tried to reinterpret his love poems as parables for Buddhist teachings. His behavior was also seen as a form of crazy wisdom and conveniently used as an excuse by wayward lamas in modern times. This reminds me of Tenzin Osalhita, a Spanish boy born in 1985 and who was later identified as a reincarnation of Thapten Yeshe by none other than the Dalai Lama himself. From then on, the Spanish boy's life changed. He practically grew up in India. At the age of 18, he became rebellious and insisted on leaving monastic life to lead a secular life. Quote, "At 14 months, I was recognized and taken to India. They dressed me in a yellow hat. They sat me on a throne. People worshipped me. They took me away from my family and put me in a medieval situation in which I suffered a lot. It was like living a lie." Unquote. Tenzin Osalhita is now a filmmaker and has returned to his birthplace in Spain. Even though he's no longer a monk, he still gives talks and participates in Dharma sharing sessions at the Foundation for the Preservation of the Mahayana tradition. He refers to his approach as one big love, focusing on universal education, loving kindness, and applying Buddhist philosophy in modern life, rather than holding a traditional, formal monastic role. With his Brazilian partner, Indila Dora, he has a son, Tenzin Nobu, who was born in 2017. Tsangyang Gyatso was not so lucky. He was summoned to Peking by Emperor Kangxi and disappeared at Qinghai Lake. Some said that he had been poisoned. Some said that he escaped and returned to Lhasa disguised as a beggar. Whatever happened, the legacy of this colourful and enigmatic Dalai Lama would live on in the minds of people interested in Tibetan culture and history.
Hi guys, I've arrived at Tawang. This border town is situated at 3,048 meters above sea level.
It's not a problem for high altitude trekkers, but this place can be reached in a taxi by any Tom, Dick or Harry. That's why the drugstores here sell oxygen canisters. Unlike Bombdilla, half of the shops in Tawang are closed to celebrate Losar. Unfortunately, they've got some very hip cafes targeted at Gen Zs that have remained open. I've checked them out for lunch and coffee and must say they are surprisingly good. The only problem is practically all the tourists here are Indians. There are very few foreigners, so many of the service staff here don't speak much English. It's about 0 degrees C now and I miss my glamping dome. There is no electric mattress, there's no heater in this room, just this miserable hot air blower. Not to worry, I've survived much harsher conditions in Nepal. I've just got a little too pampered and comfortable on this trip. So, Tawang is the furthest point on this trip before I turn back, and it's probably the furthest I'm allowed to go as a foreigner in a highly militarized area. Indian citizens do have some privileges. They can go as far as Bumla Pass and a few lakes that overlook the Tibetan border. As the crow flies, I'm just 30 kilometers from Tibet. Now, looking at a map, the Tawang district makes a dent in its western neighbor. Go west or south from here and you end up in the kingdom of Bhutan. The largest ethnic group here is the Monpa tribe. They are also believed to be the indigenous people of Bhutan. So, what's so special about Tawang? A bit of history again. Now, in 1682, the 5th Dalai Lama of Tibet passed away. The Prime Minister went to great lengths to keep his death a secret until 1696, when the spiritual leader's reincarnation was found to be a Monpa boy born here in Tawang on the 1st of March 1683. His name was Tsangyang Gyatso. From this scenic town of Tawang, the innocent boy with a humble upbringing was brought to the imposing city of Lhasa, where he would preside over the spiritual world of all Tibetans. As it turned out, the boy had neither ambition nor desire for this position of leadership and authority. He wrote love songs, romantic poems, secretly alluding or even confessing to amorous activities outside Potala Palace. He refused to take his monastic vows. Every night he would quietly leave his holy premises through a secret side door, dressed like a layperson, to visit seedy taverns where wine and women were plentiful. In spite of the controversy, Tsangyang Gyatso is one of the better known Dalai Lamas today. People, or rather people like me, are still reading his poems, looking for hidden meanings. Emperor Kangxi was appalled when he learned about the 6th Dalai Lama's behavior. A devout Tibetan Buddhist who once treated the 5th Dalai Lama as his equal, the Manchu emperor summoned Tsangyang Gyatso to Peking. As the entourage entered Qinghai, Tsangyang Gyatso mysteriously disappeared when the party stopped by at Qinghai Lake. Smelling blood, Mongol leader Lapsang Khan sent his army into Lhasa and installed his own Dalai Lama. Emperor Kangxi responded with military force. The Qing army would liberate Tibet from the Mongols. Now, there are many conspiracy theories behind the disappearance of Tsangyang Gyatso. But the most popular one says that he returned to Lhasa disguised as a beggar. The 7th Dalai Lama was found based on a hidden meaning behind one of Tsangyang Gyatso's poems. He wrote, "White crane, Lend me your wings, I shall not fly far. From Litang, I shall return. His reincarnation was found in the town of Litang in western Sichuan province. Tsangyang Gyatso never saw his hometown again after his freewheeling soul was imprisoned in Lhasa. But he predicted that he would be back in another life. And true enough, in 1959, the 14th Dalai Lama escaped from Chinese-occupied Tibet and entered India through Tawang. That's what makes Tawang such a magical place. I'm thinking of doing day trips over the next 2 days, but unfortunately, the weatherman doesn't have good news for me. It's going to be a bit warmer than expected, but it's also going to be cloudy with some snow and rain. I guess I could sit in a cafe, watch the snow fall, and seek some inspiration to write poems from Tsangyang Gyatso. Our birthday is coming up. We were born exactly 281 years apart. Anyway, Tawang is a magical place, and miracles can happen. In 1962, Chinese troops occupied Arunachal from Tawang all the way to the Assam border. Parents of the folks I dined with last night fled into Assam as refugees, but miraculously the Chinese troops withdrew, so Arunachal can be the way it is today.
Okay, thank you. Is this? Oh, this is black tea. I thought it was butter tea.
Built around 1487 AD, Ergeling Gompa is one of the oldest monasteries in the area. It was the birthplace of the 6th Dalai Lama, Tsangyang Gyatso. After the latter's recognition, the monastery was proudly upgraded by the locals. Sadly, it was destroyed when the Mongols invaded and tried to depose Tsangyang Gyatso. It was subsequently restored, but never to its former glory. Many of the treasures have been removed and kept at Tawang Monastery. Unlike the very busy and popular Tawang Monastery, this monastery is small and manageable. Ergling Gumpa has a cozy room adorned with portraits of all the Dalai Lamas. There are even portraits of Tsangyang Gyatso's parents. On the ground floor was a room filled with somewhat crudely constructed white stupas.
Hi guys, it's my last day and night here in Tawang. I have a few parting gifts. This is my birthday present. It's a Tibetan rainbow bag. Such nice people. The weather, however, has been awful with thick fog and rain the whole day. Now, it's a mere 8 degrees C, but the dampness can chew into your bones. I spent a good half of the day in a cafe here enjoying coffee and Western food. But the place soon got very crowded and noisy with Indian youngsters. Can't really blame them, there's nowhere else to go. Now let's talk about yesterday. My driver Tashi brought me around. I visited the main attraction here, Tawang Monastery. It's the second largest Buddhist monastery in the world. Only the Potala in Lhasa can beat it in terms of size. But unlike the Potala, it's authentic. The monks here do what they would do with or without tourists. The abbot calls the shots and not some party leader. Now, this place was built in 1681 under the instructions of the 5th Dalai Lama, who lived more than 200 kilometers away in Lhasa. It was completed just 1 year before his death. Now, it's as if he knew that his reincarnation would be born here. There are some 327 monks at Tawang Monastery. Quite a chorus when they chant. Especially cute are the little novices, some of them not even 10 years old. There's also a museum here with Tibetan silk robes and household items on display, some of which are centuries old. Most interesting are the ornaments and jewelry that belong to the mother of the 6th Dalai Lama, Tsangyang Gyatso. Now, bullied by landlords and community leaders when her family was poor, she wasted no time in getting even after her son was enthroned as the Dalai Lama. Now, Tsangyang Gyatso was born in 1683 near an old monastery called the Ergling Monastery, which was built in 1489. Now, it's a small but holy site today. There's a row of white plaster stupas on the ground floor and a chamber housing images of the former Dalai Lamas on the upper floor. Now, the most intriguing feature here has to be the tree planted by Tsangyang Gyatso. Now, before he left for Lhasa, the 15-year-old planted a stick and prophesied that it would sprout 3 trunks. He said he would return to Tawang when the 3 trunks grew to the same height. Now, that happened in 1959, but strong winds broke one of the trunks. Later that year, the 14th Dalai Lama entered Tawang after his escape from the PRC-occupied Tibet. Now, you can check out the photo of the tree with the 2 trunks on my Facebook. And the next place I'm going to talk about is the Bob Cutting Museum. Now, this place honors Major Bob Cutting, who was a member of the Taku tribe in Assam State and an officer in the Indian Army. After fighting in World War II, he became an assistant political officer. Even though the Mcmahon Line was drawn in 1914 and Tawang was ceded to the British, the latter never really administered Tawang. When the PRC invaded Tibet in 1950, Indian DPM Patel saw a real danger of losing Tawang and sent Major Cutting on a mission. He led a battalion from the Assam Rifles and through talks alone managed to persuade Tawang residents to accept Indian administration. He then planted the Indian flag in Tawang. Tibetan refugees soon poured in and the PRC invaded Tawang in 1962. A beautiful white Buddhist stupa sits on top of the war memorial, honoring those who died fighting the PLA. The items in the museum are much better displayed than those in the war memorial. So don't miss the museum, which is just across the road from the memorial, even though you have to pay at the museum. Then there's the giant Buddha temple not far from my hotel. It's not that big, but the design is very inspiring. When I stepped into the prayer hall, I was taken aback. The cutout photo of the Dalai Lama was so realistic that I thought it was really His Holiness sitting there smiling at me. Well, that about wraps up my day trip yesterday. I need to get up very early tomorrow for a long journey back to Itanaga. See you then.